Hey guys, welcome back to Real Talk Cinema. Today we're diving into Exterritorial, a gripping 2025 German action thriller that takes you on a heart pounding journey through deception, loss, and relentless determination. Directed and written by Christian Zuber, this film isn't your typical action flick. It's layered with emotional depth and political intrigue that keeps you hooked from start to finish. At its core, Exterritorial tells the story of Sarah Wolf, a former Special Forces soldier whose life is forever changed by trauma and the devastating disappearance of her young son Josh. When Josh mysteriously vanishes inside the heavily guarded U.S. consulate in Frankfurt, Sarah finds herself plunged into a shadowy world of secrets and lies. The place that should represent safety and diplomacy instead becomes a labyrinth of suspicion, where no one seems to want to help and many have something to hide. What makes this film truly compelling is its exploration of the human spirit under extreme pressure. Sarah isn't just chasing her son, she's confronting her own fears, battling her PTSD, and unraveling a conspiracy that threatens to consume her. The consulate, with its cold corridors and guarded rooms, serves as more than just a setting. It becomes a symbol of political power plays and the blurry lines between justice and corruption. Jeanne Goursaud's portrayal of Sarah is raw and visceral, bringing to life a character who's both vulnerable and fiercely resilient. Her journey isn't just about rescue, it's about reclaiming agency in a world that seems determined to silence her. The film's pacing, a mix of tense action sequences and emotionally charged moments, pulls you deeper into Sarah's relentless fight against an invisible enemy. What sets Exterritorial apart is how it blends the personal with the political. It asks tough questions about trust, loyalty, and the cost of secrets hidden behind diplomatic walls. As the plot twists unfold, you realize this is more than a thriller. It's a commentary on the price individuals pay when caught in the crossfire of larger, darker forces. Whether you're here for the adrenaline-fueled action or the intricate storytelling, Exterritorial delivers a cinematic experience that's as thought-provoking as it is intense. So, buckle up, because Sarah Wolf's story is one you won't forget anytime soon. Exterritorial made its global debut on Netflix on April 30th, 2025, marking a significant milestone for German cinema on an international stage. Netflix has transformed the way films reach audiences by breaking down geographical barriers, allowing stories from all corners of the world to be accessible instantly and globally. By choosing Netflix as its primary release platform, Exterritorial bypassed the traditional theatrical route, enabling viewers from nearly every continent to experience the film simultaneously. This approach perfectly aligns with the movie's international themes, a story rooted in diplomacy, espionage, and cross-border intrigue. The platform's vast subscriber base and sophisticated recommendation system propelled Exterritorial to top the Netflix charts in 79 countries soon after release, showcasing the growing appetite for well-crafted thrillers beyond Hollywood. This success highlights the power of streaming services to elevate foreign language films to global prominence. Moreover, Netflix's on-demand nature meant that Exterritorial could be watched anytime, fitting into the modern viewer's lifestyle. This accessibility helped create a broad and diverse audience, sparking conversations and fan theories worldwide. Ultimately, the release on Netflix was not just a distribution choice, it was a gateway that allowed Exterritorial to reach and resonate with millions, proving that great storytelling transcends language and borders in today's streaming era. Exterritorial firmly situates itself in the action thriller genre, but it does so with a distinctive blend of political intrigue and psychological tension that sets it apart from standard fare. At first glance, it promises adrenaline pumping sequences, fast paced chases, and expertly choreographed combat hallmarks of a classic action film. Yet, beneath the surface, it weaves a complex narrative of deception, betrayal, and survival. The thriller element comes alive through the claustrophobic atmosphere of the U.S. consulate in Frankfurt, transforming a diplomatic building into a battlefield of secrets and power struggles. Suspense builds steadily as Sarah Wolf, the protagonist, uncovers layer after layer of conspiracy, turning the film into a tense cat and mouse game where trust is a dangerous commodity. What elevates Exterritorial beyond pure action is its psychological depth. The movie delves into the trauma and resilience of its lead character, exposing the emotional scars left by war and loss. This fusion of intense physical action with an emotionally charged storyline creates a genre hybrid that keeps viewers engaged not only through thrilling visuals but also through genuine human conflict. By balancing explosive sequences with intricate plotting and character driven drama, Exterritorial appeals to fans of high stakes espionage thrillers as well as those who appreciate layered storytelling. This genre blending ensures the film remains both entertaining and thought provoking, maintaining suspense while exploring profound themes of loyalty, sacrifice, and the costs of power. Exterritorial opens with a deceptively calm moment. Sarah Wolf, a battle hardened former Special Forces soldier, arrives at the U.S. consulate in Frankfurt with her young son Josh. What should have been a straightforward visit to apply for a visa quickly spirals into a nightmare. The consulate, a place meant to symbolize safety and diplomacy, instead becomes a cold fortress filled with silent threats and hidden dangers. From this initial setup, the film plunges viewers into a tense atmosphere where every door closed and every official glance conceals a deeper secret. Josh's sudden and mysterious disappearance inside the consulate triggers a desperate search by Sarah, but the officials deny his presence entirely, dismissing her as unstable and paranoid. This refusal to acknowledge reality becomes the catalyst for Sarah's relentless pursuit, not just to find her son, but to expose the corruption lurking within the very walls meant to protect. The plot setup masterfully establishes a dual conflict: the external danger of navigating a hostile environment where Sarah is both hunted and doubted, and the internal struggle of a mother grappling with her trauma while fighting for her son's life. This layered beginning sets the tone for a story that is as much about survival and resilience as it is about uncovering political deceit. By anchoring the story in a deeply personal crisis framed by a larger conspiracy, Exterritorial invites viewers to invest emotionally in Sarah's journey from the very first scene, setting the stage for an intense, unpredictable thriller. The heartbeat of Exterritorial kicks in the moment. Sarah Wolf's son Josh mysteriously vanishes inside the supposedly secure U.S. consulate in Frankfurt. This disappearance isn't just a plot device. It is the emotional explosion that shatters Sarah's already fragile world and propels the entire narrative forward. What makes this inciting incident so powerful is the immediate sense of disbelief and helplessness it creates. Sarah is desperate and frantic, yet the very institution where her son disappeared coldly denies any record of his presence. This official denial is not just bureaucratic indifference, it's the first clear sign of a larger, more sinister conspiracy. The consulate, a place that should guarantee safety and diplomatic protection, becomes a cage, an enigma. Sarah's son is lost in a maze of lies and political games, and the inciting incident forces her to make an impossible choice: accept the official story and give up on Josh, or fight against overwhelming odds to uncover the truth. This moment ignites Sarah's transformation from a broken veteran into a fierce, unstoppable force. It's a powerful catalyst that not only launches the story's suspense and action, but also deeply engages the audience's empathy, a mother's unyielding will to protect her child in a world that seems designed to keep them apart. At the heart of Exterritorial lies a gripping conflict that operates on multiple levels: personal, institutional, and political. Sarah Wolf, haunted by her past and grappling with PTSD, finds herself locked in a fierce battle not only to find her missing son, Josh, but also to confront the cold, impenetrable walls of power that protect dark secrets within the U.S. consulate. The immediate conflict is visceral and urgent. Sarah versus the consulate's officials, who stonewall her with denials, misinformation, and active resistance. This creates a suffocating environment where every attempt to seek help or truth is met with suspicion, disbelief, or outright hostility. It's a fight against an unyielding system designed to obscure and control information. Beyond this, a deeper, shadowy conflict emerges, one involving political betrayal and hidden agendas. The consulate is not just a diplomatic office, but a battleground for covert operations and cover ups. Sarah's search for her son becomes entangled with exposing a military conspiracy that threatens not only her family, but potentially international stability. The film expertly layers these conflicts, pitting Sarah's raw, emotional desperation against the cold machinery of institutional power. This tension drives the narrative, forcing Sarah to navigate a dangerous maze of deception, all while battling her own inner demons. It's a high stakes game where trust is scarce and every ally could be an enemy. This multidimensional conflict makes Exterritorial more than an action thriller. It's a powerful story about fighting against overwhelming odds in a world where truth is the most dangerous weapon of all. Exterritorial is much more than a fast paced action thriller at its core. It is a profound exploration of resilience, betrayal, and the blurred lines between justice and corruption. The film delves into the enduring strength of a mother's love, showing how far one person can go when driven by desperation and hope. Central to the story is the theme of trust, or the tragic absence of it. Within the confines of the U.S. consulate, where diplomacy should reign, the narrative exposes a world riddled with deceit, silence, and institutional betrayal. The film challenges the viewer to question who can be trusted when those sworn to protect instead conceal the truth. Another key theme is the personal cost of trauma and war. Sarah Wolf's journey is haunted by her past experiences as a Special Forces soldier and the invisible wounds she carries. The story highlights how trauma shapes identity, sometimes fragmenting it, yet also igniting a fierce determination to reclaim control and seek justice. Additionally, Exterritorial probes the dark intersections between power and morality. It presents a world where political interests often override human empathy, where diplomatic immunity can shield cruelty, and where moral lines blur under the weight of secrecy. Ultimately, the film poses a haunting question. In a system designed to protect the powerful, what happens to those left vulnerable? Through Sarah's relentless fight, Exterritorial reveals that courage and humanity can survive even in the darkest, most corrupt places. The driving force behind Exterritorial is Sarah Wolf, a complex and compelling protagonist whose strength and vulnerability form the emotional core of the film. A former Special Forces soldier, Sarah is shaped by a past filled with both battlefield courage and deep personal trauma. Her military background equips her with tactical skills and resilience, but it also leaves her carrying invisible scars, memories, and PTSD that haunt her at every turn. Sarah's character is far from a typical action hero. She is a mother first, and her greatest motivation is the desperate search for her missing son, Josh. This quest transforms her from a woman weighed down by loss into a relentless warrior willing to challenge powerful institutions. Her determination is fueled by fierce love and a refusal to accept official denials and lies. Portrayed with raw intensity, Sarah's journey is marked by moments of vulnerability and strength. She navigates a treacherous world of deception inside the U.S. consulate, where every step forward means risking her sanity and safety. Yet, despite the overwhelming obstacles, her unbreakable spirit shines through, a testament to the endurance of the human will when driven by hope and the primal instinct to protect. Sarah's character invites viewers to experience the tension between control and chaos, courage and fear, highlighting the personal cost of fighting for truth in a world that seems determined to hide it. Her evolution throughout the film grounds the story in emotional reality, making Exterritorial not just a political thriller, but a deeply human tale of survival and love. While Sarah Wolf stands at the center of Exterritorial, the supporting cast plays a crucial role in enriching the film's intricate web of suspense and drama. Each character adds depth to the unfolding mystery, reflecting the complex power dynamics and conflicting loyalties that shape Sarah's desperate quest. Key among them is Stefan Koenig, portrayed by Jeanne Goursaud, who embodies the ambiguous role of a consulate official whose true motives remain shrouded in shadow. His presence injects a persistent sense of unease. Is he an adversary, an ally, or something in between? This ambiguity keeps audiences guessing, heightening the tension with every interaction. David Braddon, played by Janice Newvener, serves as another pivotal figure, representing the bureaucratic machinery Sarah must navigate. His character oscillates between official duty and personal conscience, embodying the institutional barriers Sarah confronts. His layered performance brings nuance to the portrayal of power wielded behind closed doors. Supporting roles such as Anna, Nikki, and Klaus further populate this claustrophobic world with characters whose allegiances are never fully clear. Each interaction challenges Sarah's trust and forces her to confront the reality that allies and enemies often wear the same face. Collectively, the supporting cast weaves a tapestry of tension and intrigue, reflecting the political and emotional stakes at play. Their performances underscore the film's central themes of deception and loyalty, making the consulate itself feel like a character cold, secretive, and dangerous. Through this ensemble, Exterritorial creates a richly textured narrative landscape that amplifies Sarah's struggle, ensuring the story's suspense and emotional weight resonate long after the credits roll. In Exterritorial operates not just as a single villain, but as a representation of a cold, bureaucratic system driven by power, control, and hidden agendas. At the heart of the conspiracy lies a motive steeped in political calculation and self-preservation, where human lives become expendable chess pieces in a broader game. The antagonists, including high-ranking consulate officials and shadowy operatives, are motivated by the desire to protect classified operations and maintain diplomatic immunity at all costs. Their goal is to conceal evidence of covert military actions and prevent any scandal that could destabilize international relations or jeopardize their own positions of influence. This ruthless calculus leads them to deny Sarah Wolf's son's existence and block any attempt at investigation, treating Josh not as a child in danger, but as a liability threatening to expose dangerous truths. Their actions reveal a world where morality is sacrificed for political expediency and where loyalty is owed to the state apparatus rather than individual humanity. The antagonist's motive thus embodies the film's central critique of institutional corruption and the devastating consequences when unchecked power overrides compassion and justice. It's a chilling reminder that the true enemy isn't always a person sometimes. It's a system designed to protect itself, no matter the cost. Sarah Wolf once stood as a paragon of strength, discipline, and patriotism. As a member of the KSK Germany's Kommando Spezialkräfte, she was trained to be invisible, lethal, and unbreakable. Her missions took her into the darkest corners of conflict, where human lives were reduced to statistics and morality became a shadowy gray area. She served with distinction, leading covert operations across Afghanistan, the Sahel, and Eastern Europe. But one mission, buried deep within a classified report and whispered only in closed military circles, broke her. During a hostage extraction operation in Kandahar, her unit was ambushed due to bad intel. Civilians were caught in the crossfire. Sarah was forced to choose between completing the objective or saving innocent lives, and the weight of that decision haunts her to this day. Though she succeeded in bringing back the target, the collateral damage left behind tore into her soul. Children, families, collapsed buildings, the screams still echo in her dreams. Back home, hailed as a hero, she withdrew from the world. The medals she received felt like mockery, reminders of blood stains that never washed off. Her military career ended in an honorable discharge, but no one saw the invisible wounds she carried. Diagnosed with severe PTSD, she drifted into civilian life detached, isolated, surviving each day rather than living it. Now a single mother, she pours what remains of her strength into raising her young son, Josh. He becomes her anchor, her reason to breathe through the nightmares and anxiety attacks. She avoids loud crowds, flinches at sudden sounds, and doesn't trust easily. But around Josh, her eyes soften. She smiles again, even if faintly. Her world is small, but sacred. So when Josh disappears inside the seemingly secure walls of the US consulate in Frankfurt, that fragile world shatters. Sarah doesn't just go looking for a missing child. She reawakens the soldier within the side of her she buried because it frightened her, the part she swore would never rise again. And as the conspiracy around Josh's disappearance deepens, her trauma becomes both a curse and a weapon. Every panic attack becomes a battleground. Every corridor she enters in the consulate is a combat zone. She is not just a mother, she is a warrior haunted by ghosts, and she is ready to burn down the walls of diplomatic immunity to bring her son back. It was meant to be a routine trip, another step toward rebuilding their lives. Sarah Wolf, now several years removed from the battlefield, had cautiously begun making plans for a future outside the shadows of war. America represented that promise, a fresh start, a place where no one knew her past, where she could give Josh the safety and opportunities she never had. The journey to the US consulate in Frankfurt wasn't just bureaucratic, it was symbolic. She rehearsed it for weeks, from collecting the documents to calming the ever present anxiety that loomed in unfamiliar crowds. Frankfurt was loud, bustling, and indifferent, a stark contrast to the controlled, calculated environments she once operated in. But with her son's hand in hers, she found a strange calm. Josh was inquisitive, bright-eyed, full of questions and wonder. He had his father's curiosity and her stubbornness. He asked about everything: the flags fluttering above the consulate gates, the armored security booths, the suits and uniforms. For Sarah, the consulate grounds were disorienting. Too many checkpoints, too many guns. The sight lines, the blind corners, her mind couldn't stop scanning for threats. Old instincts kicked in. Her breathing quickened. She reminded herself, this is peacetime, this is safety. But trauma doesn't follow logic. Every door could be a trap. Every glance from a guard could be suspicion. And yet, she forced a smile for Josh, gripping his hand a little tighter. Inside, the consulate was cold and clinical. Metal detectors, long lines, fluorescent lights that hummed like distant drones. Their names were called, documents exchanged, fingerprints taken. Josh fidgeted, bored and restless. A consulate staff member offered to take him to a waiting area with toys and books while Sarah finalized the application. Hesitantly, she let go of his hand just for a moment. That moment was all it took. When she turned around, Josh was gone. At first, it was just a ripple of worry. Then the worry became a tidal wave. She asked the staff, where was he? Who took him? Where was the waiting room? But the answer didn't come fast enough. Something was wrong. Deeply wrong. She could feel it in her bones. The polished, bureaucratic facade of the consulate quickly turned cold and evasive. Security brushed her off. Officials offered vague platitudes. We're looking into it. It's a large building. Children wander. But Sarah knew better. Her years in the field taught her to read silence like a language. The staff's unease wasn't just bureaucratic delay, it was fear, obfuscation. Something had happened, and someone was trying to bury it. Her training kicked in. Her pulse slowed. Her eyes became calculating. She was no longer a mother filling out forms. She was a soldier walking into enemy territory. The consulate, under the veil of diplomacy, had become a fortress, and her son was lost inside it. Sarah's request was simple: show me the security feed. She knew beyond any doubt that a consulate like this, fortified, scrutinized, and crawling with US personnel, had surveillance cameras covering every inch. No child could vanish here without being seen. And yet, as she pressed the officer, her confidence met a wall of cold, bureaucratic indifference. They gave her the usual line: under review, classified systems, data access is restricted. But when she demanded escalation, when she cited legal precedent, military protocols, and even foreign diplomatic law, the facade cracked. A technician finally pulled her aside, hushed, eyes darting. He whispered, "The file's gone. That time window doesn't exist anymore." Gone? Erased. A digital black hole had swallowed the exact hour her son vanished. No explanation, no technical fault, just deletion. The kind that requires authorization, the kind that never happens by accident. Sarah's breath caught. Her soldier's brain kicked into overdrive. Who has the power to delete security footage inside a US diplomatic facility? Who had reason to hide the truth? She slammed her fist on the counter, demanding answers. That was when the whispers began, the quiet, coded language of bureaucratic gaslighting. A soft-spoken counselor was summoned. A medical officer was on hand to assist. They started speaking over her, not to her. Could be stress-related. She's clearly traumatized. History of combat fatigue. Her voice, once sharp enough to command elite soldiers, now fell on ears trained to dismiss it. PTSD, the silent shadow she had fought so hard to manage, had become the perfect tool to silence her. She watched as her credibility was dismantled piece by piece, not by enemies with guns, but by diplomats in suits and nurses with clipboards. They asked her about medications, if she was sleeping, if she'd imagined Josh was with her in the first place. And for a brief, terrifying second, even she faltered. Her hands trembled, her vision blurred. That old voice, the one trauma etched into her brain, whispered, "Maybe this is you. Maybe the war never left. Maybe this is all in your head." But no. She shoved it down like a fire she refused to let spread. Josh was real, his little hand in hers, his drawings, his laugh echoing through the consulate lobby. He was here. They were trying to erase him not just from the cameras, but from her memory. The lies were piling up, but Sarah had seen cover-ups before. She had been part of them. She knew how stories were buried beneath polished statements and official denials. She knew the truth was being hidden. And she swore, right there in the pristine marble-floored lobby of the American consulate, that no matter what they said, no matter how much they doubted her, she would find her son. Even if she had to fight alone. Background identity. Sarah Wolf is a paradox. She is both warrior and mother, victim and survivor. Born into a military family, she grew up on base compounds and learned to salute before she could ride a bike. Her upbringing was rigid, a world of discipline, duty, and emotional restraint. That environment shaped her into a perfect soldier, but fractured her ability to express vulnerability. By her mid-20s, she was already a decorated operative in the German KSK, fluent in multiple languages, capable of surviving deep cover missions, and trained to neutralize threats before they appeared on radar. But while her comrades idolized her resolve, they never saw the cost of it: the sleepless nights, the ghost-like detachment from normal life, the quiet unraveling of someone forced to make impossible choices. The trauma she carries. Sarah doesn't suffer from PTSD in a cinematic, surface-level way. It's not just flashbacks and cold sweats. It's deeper, a distortion of reality, a chronic tension that makes peace feel unnatural. She second-guesses every silence. Her body is perpetually coiled for violence. She's hyper-aware in a way that's exhausting. She wants to live a normal life, but peace feels like a battlefield of its own. The mission in Kandahar was her breaking point. A mission where she had to choose: rescue the target or save the innocent lives that collateral damage would consume. Her choice left her mentally fragmented, questioning the very foundation of her training. Her mind has never left that moment, even as her body returned to Germany. Motherhood as redemption. Josh is not just her son, he is her rebirth. Through him, she reconnects with her humanity. He is laughter in a world that only taught her silence. He gives her purpose not defined by war, a love unconditioned by protocol, but this also makes her emotionally exposed, vulnerable. For Sarah, losing Josh isn't just losing her child, it's losing the only reason she's kept herself alive. Her motherly instincts aren't soft or gentle, they're fierce. Sarah loves like a soldier, all in, no retreat. She's not just searching for Josh out of fear. She's moving with the fury of a woman who has lost everything once and will not do it again. Combat versus conscience. Sarah is torn between the warrior she was and the civilian she's trying to become. Inside the consulate, she begins to revert, mapping escape routes, memorizing guard rotations, assessing threats.
But each time she reaches for that part of herself, she risks losing the humanity she rebuilt.
The film explores this inner conflict. Can she become a killer again without killing what remains of the mother? Her actions grow more brutal, more tactical, but also more desperate. The line between calculated mission and emotional frenzy begins to blur. She becomes unpredictable, ungoverned, not because she's unstable, but because she is free of illusion. Psychological isolation. No one believes her. The staff thinks she's delusional. The authorities think she's dangerous. Even allies question her judgment. This isolation is central to her arc. She's not just fighting to find Josh, she's fighting to hold on to her own sanity, to resist the narrative the world is trying to impose on her. Every moment of the film tightens that psychological noose. Her credibility erodes. Her grip on reality is tested. And yet, she never gives up. The film poses the question, what would you do if everyone thought you were crazy and your child's life depended on proving them wrong? Moral evolution. By the film's climax, Sarah is forced to become someone even she no longer recognizes: an operator without a badge, a woman without diplomacy. She uses interrogation tactics she once swore off. She holds a gun again. She breaks laws, bones, and illusions not for revenge, but for rescue. But it's not a clean victory. There's blood on her hands, secrets revealed. The mother becomes a ghost again, only this time, not by choice, but because she's seen what justice looks like behind official walls. In summary, strength, tactical, lethal, commanding. Weakness, emotional detachment, hypervigilance, trauma. Core conflict, warrior versus mother, truth versus perception, survival versus morality. Motivation, love pure, violent, unconditional. Symbolism. Sarah represents the psychological aftermath of war, not just as a combatant, but as a woman trying to reclaim her soul. 1. Opening flashback, Kandahar ambush. The film opens with a gritty, chaotic combat scene in Kandahar. Sarah's elite team is caught in an ambush. The camera shakes with gunfire, explosions tear through the dust-choked air, and flashes of terrified civilians underscore the cost of war. Sarah moves with lethal precision, silent, deadly, and cold, but the sequence ends on a harrowing note: the mission's collateral damage. This flashback sets the emotional and physical stakes that haunt Sarah throughout the film. 2. Consulate entry and surveillance chase. Inside the U.S. consulate, Sarah's military training clashes with diplomatic protocols. When Josh disappears, Sarah's search escalates into a tense stealth pursuit through narrow hallways, security checkpoints, and high-tech surveillance systems. She uses improvised tactics, ducking behind columns, disabling cameras, and hacking access points, evoking a cat-and-mouse game within a fortress where every step risks exposure. 3. Confrontation with security personnel. Sarah confronts consulate security officers who try to block her access. The fight is brutal and raw, close-quarters combat with rapid strikes, grappling, and improvised weapon use. Unlike polished Hollywood choreography, these brawls feel gritty and desperate, reflecting Sarah's emotional turmoil and urgency. 4. Escape through service tunnels. In a thrilling subterranean sequence, Sarah navigates service tunnels beneath the consulate. The claustrophobic corridors amplify tension. She moves silently, evading guards with night vision goggles and using shadows as cover. The tunnels are a maze, and each wrong turn brings deadly encounters. This sequence is a visceral reminder of her training and the stakes of the mission. 5. Interrogation and showdown with Eric Kinch. Eric Kinch, the consulate security officer with a dark past, becomes both adversary and reluctant ally. Their confrontations are loaded with physical and psychological intensity. A particularly memorable sequence features a brutal hand-to-hand fight in a sterile office. Punches land with weight, and each strike reveals layers of their shared history and betrayal. 6. High-stakes rescue in the diplomatic quarters. The climax brings a high-octane rescue mission inside the diplomatic quarters, a labyrinth of guarded rooms, surveillance, and political minefields. Sarah uses every skill at her disposal: combat, hacking, quick thinking. The tension is punctuated by near misses, gunfire exchanges, and tense standoffs, culminating in a dramatic showdown that forces Sarah to confront not just physical enemies but the system itself. 7. Emotional fight for survival. Amid the chaos, the action is never gratuitous. Each sequence serves to deepen Sarah's character, her vulnerability, resolve, and maternal ferocity. The fights aren't just about skill, they're about willpower, survival instinct, and the raw drive to protect what she loves. Why the action works. Realism and grit. The action avoids over-stylization. Movements are grounded in real combat techniques, reflecting Sarah's military background. Emotional weight. Every fight scene is underscored by Sarah's psychological state, her PTSD, desperation, and love for Josh, making action a narrative tool. Tension stakes. The confined, high security setting of the consulate turns the environment itself into a trap, heightening suspense. Character driven combat. Opponents are not faceless villains, they have motives, making conflicts morally complex. 1. Visual tone: dark, gritty, and realistic. The film employs a muted color palette: cold blues, steely grays, and occasional harsh fluorescence, reflecting Sarah Wolf's internal turmoil and the sterile, impenetrable nature of the consulate. Natural lighting is scarce. Interiors feel claustrophobic and oppressive. Handheld cameras dominate during intense scenes, shaking subtly to mirror Sarah's PTSD and the unpredictability of her situation. Static wide shots punctuate moments of isolation and despair, underscoring her solitude. 2. Pacing: relentless yet thoughtful. The director balances tense, fast paced action sequences with slower, introspective moments. The editing style fluctuates between quick cuts during fights and longer, lingering shots during Sarah's psychological breakdowns or moments with her son. This creates a rhythm that mirrors the highs and lows of trauma and survival: frantic bursts of energy followed by painful stillness. 3. Narrative focus, character driven tension. Rather than relying solely on plot twists, the direction centers on Sarah's emotional journey. The camera often stays tight on her face, capturing micro expressions, flickers of fear, determination, exhaustion, making the audience intimately connected with her psyche. Scenes unfold through her perspective, heightening paranoia and uncertainty. Secondary characters are framed through Sarah's lens, often appearing ambiguous or threatening. 4. Use of sound and silence. Sound design plays a crucial role. The ambient noise of the consulate, distant footsteps, muffled voices, the hum of security systems creates a constant undercurrent of tension. Sudden silences or heightened natural sounds, Josh's laughter, Sarah's breathing, punctuate emotional beats. The score is minimalist, blending electronic and orchestral elements, accentuating anxiety and suspense without overwhelming. 5. Visual symbolism and motifs. The director employs recurring motifs: locked doors, surveillance cameras, mirrors to symbolize confinement, watchfulness, and fractured identity. Reflections are used to show Sarah's fragmented self, caught between soldier and mother. The interplay of light and shadow often suggests the blurred line between truth and deception. 6. Realism and authenticity. Attention to detail grounds the film's world, from accurate portrayals of military procedures to authentic depictions of PTSD symptoms. The direction avoids sensationalism, instead portraying trauma with nuance and respect. Physicality in action scenes feels earned, not stylized, enhancing credibility. 7. Political and social subtext. Subtle directorial choices highlight the tension between power, diplomacy, and individual agency. Scenes in sterile diplomatic offices contrast with Sarah's raw emotional state, underscoring the dissonance between human vulnerability and political machinery. The film questions how institutions can invalidate personal trauma and obscure truths for expediency. 1. Camera work: intimate and unstable. The cinematography favors handheld, close-up shots to create a visceral, immersive experience
that reflects Sarah's psychological state.
The slight shakiness of the camera mimics her PTSD induced anxiety and hypervigilance, putting viewers inside her unsettled mind. In calmer moments, the camera lingers on her face with tight framing, allowing micro expressions to reveal her internal struggle. 2. Lighting, stark and contrasting. Lighting is predominantly low key, using sharp contrasts between light and shadow to amplify tension and unease. Harsh fluorescent lighting inside the consulate creates sterile, unforgiving environments where every detail is exposed. Shadows frequently encroach upon Sarah, symbolizing her entrapment and the pervasive threat lurking within bureaucratic walls.
Occasional use of natural light, such as through windows, contrasts with the artificiality of her surroundings, suggesting fleeting moments of hope or clarity. 3. Color palette, muted and cold. The film's palette is restrained, featuring desaturated blues, grays, and washed out whites, emphasizing the bleakness of Sarah's world. Occasional warmer tones appear in flashbacks or scenes with her son Josh, highlighting emotional warmth and vulnerability amid the cold institutional backdrop. This deliberate use of color helps separate Sarah's internal memories from her present reality. 4. Composition, claustrophobic and fragmented. Compositions frequently use tight framing and shallow depth
Of field, isolating Sarah in the frame and visually reinforcing her emotional and psychological isolation. Door frames, windows, and reflective surfaces are used as framing devices to create a sense of entrapment. Fragmented reflections and obstructed views symbolize her fractured psyche and the ambiguity of truth in her surroundings. 5. Camera movement, purposeful and tense. Movement is minimal but meaningful. Slow tracking shots follow Sarah through corridors, emphasizing her stealth and determination. Quick pans and whip takes are reserved for moments of sudden threat or realization, heightening suspense. The camera's gaze is often subjective, adopting Sarah's perspective, which immerses the audience in her paranoia and desperation. 6. Visual symbolism through shots. Extreme close-ups on eyes or trembling hands emphasize vulnerability and emotional intensity. Over-the-shoulder shots during confrontations emphasize power dynamics and surveillance. Wide shots in confined spaces underscore isolation despite being surrounded by people. 7. Use of surveillance footage and technology. The film integrates footage mimicking CCTV and security camera angles to contrast Sarah's lived emotional experience with cold, impersonal observation. These static, grainy shots create a voyeuristic feel and highlight themes of surveillance, control, and erasure. In summary, the cinematography of Exterritorial is a careful balance of intimate character focus and claustrophobic environmental tension. Through nuanced lighting, color, framing, and camera movement, it visually narrates Sarah's inner turmoil and external struggle, making the audience feel every heartbeat of her desperate fight. 1. Ambient soundscape, heightened realism and unease. The film's soundscape is layered with subtle, persistent ambient noises, the low hum of fluorescent lights, the distant murmur of voices, footsteps echoing in sterile hallways, the occasional mechanical beep of security systems. These everyday sounds are amplified and sometimes distorted to evoke Sarah's hyper-awareness and anxiety. They create a feeling that the consulate itself is alive and watching, a pressure cooker of unseen threats. 2. Use of silence, emotional and psychological impact. Silence is used strategically to emphasize Sarah's isolation and internal struggle. In moments of despair or realization, the absence of sound forces the audience to lean into her mental space. The quiet is oppressive, almost tactile, like a held breath before a storm. This contrast between silence and sudden noise spikes accentuates tension and suspense. 3. Distorted sounds, auditory hallucinations. Sarah's PTSD is sonically represented through subtle distortions, muffled voices, echoing footsteps, overlapping conversations, and intermittent ringing sounds, like tinnitus. These effects blur reality and memory, immersing viewers in her fractured perception and growing paranoia. Occasionally, echoes of gunfire or explosions from her past missions intrude softly in tense moments, reminding us of the trauma she carries. 4. Music score, minimalist and tense. The musical score blends sparse electronic tones with orchestral strings, creating an unsettling, cold atmosphere that mirrors the film's visual style.
The music swells gradually during moments of rising tension, but never overwhelms the natural sounds, maintaining a grounded, intimate feel. Pulsing beats underscore chase sequences, while haunting melodies accompany Sarah's moments of vulnerability. 5. Dialogue and vocal performance. Sarah's voice is often hushed or strained, conveying exhaustion and determination. The sound design emphasizes close up vocal nuances, breaths, whispers, sobs, making her emotional state palpable. Other characters' voices are sometimes filtered or layered to suggest distance, duplicity, or detachment, reinforcing the theme of mistrust. 6. Action sounds, realistic and impactful. Gunshots, hand to hand combat, door slams, and footsteps are designed to feel visceral and grounded. No exaggerated boom or swoosh. Instead, the sounds are raw and authentic, emphasizing the physicality and danger of each encounter. The clash of fists, the scrape of bodies against walls, the click of a safety catch, every detail sharpens the immediacy of the action. 7. Use of technology sounds. The film incorporates the cold mechanical sounds of security systems, camera swivels, keypad beeps, door locks, engaging to heighten the sense of surveillance and control.
These sounds are sometimes layered over or contrasted with Sarah's internal chaos, underscoring the clash between human emotion and institutional coldness. In summary, the sound design in Exterritorial is a vital narrative tool, immersing the audience in Sarah's tense, fractured world. By blending ambient realism, strategic silence, and psychological auditory cues, it deepens the emotional resonance and amplifies the film's suspense and urgency. 1. Subjective, psychological perspective. The narrative is tightly focused through Sarah Wolf's point of view. The story unfolds largely from her perspective, immersing the audience in her fragmented, traumatic experience. This subjective storytelling heightens tension as viewers share in her doubts, fears, and determination. Moments of ambiguity, what's real, what's imagined, mirror her PTSD, keeping audiences questioning alongside her. 2. Non-linear flashbacks. The film employs carefully placed flashbacks that reveal Sarah's past missions, the trauma that haunts her, and the moments that shaped her psychological state. These flashbacks are triggered by sensory cues in the present, a sound, a sight, a smell, blending past and present in a way that underscores how trauma intrudes on daily life. 3. Minimal exposition, show don't tell. Dialogue is sparse and purposeful. Instead of heavy exposition, the film relies on visual storytelling, character actions, and environmental clues. This respects the audience's intelligence and immerses them deeper into the mystery. Information is revealed gradually, often through subtle interactions or overheard conversations. 4. Tense, slow-burning suspense. Rather than rapid-fire plot twists, the narrative builds tension slowly and methodically. Each new revelation adds layers to the mystery, increasing stakes and complexity. The pacing mirrors Sarah's own psychological unraveling, moments of frantic action punctuated by introspective pauses. 5. Themes of distrust and isolation. The narrative explores the themes of institutional betrayal and personal isolation. Characters who should be allies appear suspicious or indifferent, deepening Sarah's alienation. This is reflected in the storytelling. Scenes often end on unresolved notes. Dialogue feels clipped or evasive, and the truth remains elusive until the climax. 6. Interpersonal dynamics as story engines. Relationships, especially between Sarah and secondary characters like Josh, Eric Kinch, and Kira Volkova, drive much of the emotional weight. The narrative probes trust, loyalty, and conflicting motives, adding moral ambiguity and emotional complexity. 7. Open-ended resolution. While the central mystery, Josh's fate, is resolved, the film leaves some questions open, reflecting the ambiguity of trauma and the imperfect nature of justice. Sarah's journey is portrayed as ongoing a war within herself as much as against external forces. 1. The visa application was a setup. Early in the film, it appears Sarah is simply trying to get a visa for her and her son. The first twist reveals that this application is a cover for a covert extraction mission. Sarah isn't just a desperate mother, but an operative with a hidden agenda, adding layers to her motives and raising questions about her trustworthiness. 2. Josh's disappearance is inside job. Initially, Sarah believes her son's disappearance is due to external kidnappers or bureaucratic negligence. The twist reveals that the consulate staff or a faction within orchestrated Josh's removal, exposing a conspiracy and deep institutional corruption. 3. Eric Kinch's true allegiance. Eric, the consulate security officer who initially seems an antagonist, is revealed to have ambiguous loyalties. A pivotal twist shows he may be working undercover to protect Sarah or has his own agenda, forcing viewers to reassess their trust in him. 4. Sarah's PTSD causes unreliable perception. Midway through the film, evidence emerges that some of Sarah's memories and observations might be distorted by her PTSD, including the erased security footage. This twist makes the audience question what's real and what's psychological, adding tension through unreliable narration. 5. Kira Volkova's hidden role. Kira Volkova, introduced as a diplomatic aide, is revealed to be a covert intelligence operative with her own mission connected to Josh and Sarah. Her true intentions complicate alliances and escalate stakes. 6. The consulate is a front for illegal operations. A deeper twist uncovers that the consulate serves as a hub for illicit dealings, arms trafficking, covert surveillance, or black ops. Josh's disappearance ties into this secret, framing Sarah's fight as not only personal but political. 7. Sarah's mission is compromised from within. In the climax, it's revealed that someone close to Sarah, possibly a former teammate or confidant, betrayed her, leaking details to hostile forces and exacerbating her isolation. Effect of the twists. Each twist reframes the narrative, shifting the audience's understanding of characters and motives. They blur the line between ally and enemy, reality and perception, heightening suspense and deepening the emotional stakes. 1. Starting point: haunted and isolated. Sarah begins as a former elite German Special Forces soldier, deeply scarred by trauma from a disastrous mission. She is emotionally withdrawn, haunted by PTSD, and struggling to reconnect with civilian life. Her identity is fractured, a warrior trapped in a civilian world, grappling with guilt and helplessness. 2. Initial motivation: protection and redemption. Her driving motivation is to protect her young son Josh and secure their future by applying for a visa in the US. This mission is both practical and symbolic, a chance for safety, but also a bid for personal redemption. Sarah's determination is fueled by love, but clouded by fear and paranoia. 3. Confronting betrayal and mistrust. As the consulate staff dismiss her claims and security footage mysteriously disappears, Sarah faces systemic betrayal. Her PTSD and trauma make others doubt her sanity, deepening her isolation. This forces her to rely on her own instincts and training, igniting a fierce inner resilience. 4. Descent into chaos, fighting external and internal demons. Josh's disappearance propels Sarah into a chaotic, dangerous pursuit within the consulate. This physical struggle mirrors her psychological battle, confronting nightmares, flashbacks, and hallucinations. The line between reality and trauma blurs, challenging her grip on truth and sanity. 5. Moment of crisis, vulnerability, and revelation. A pivotal moment occurs when Sarah is forced to face her PTSD head-on, perhaps through a near-fatal confrontation or a moment of surrender with her son. This vulnerability humanizes her beyond the soldier archetype, exposing deep fears and regrets. 6. Reclaiming agency, strategic and emotional empowerment. Sarah shifts from reactive survivor to proactive fighter. She uses her military skills not just for physical defense,
but to unravel the conspiracy threatening her family. Emotionally, she learns to trust selective allies, balancing vigilance with connection. 7. Resolution, acceptance, and continuance. By the film's end, Sarah rescues Josh and exposes the consulate's corruption. But her journey is not neatly closed. She accepts that trauma is part of her, but no longer allows it to define or paralyze her. She embraces her dual identity, soldier and mother, ready to face ongoing battles, both external and internal. Summary: Sarah's arc is a powerful exploration of trauma, resilience, and redemption. From isolation and doubt to empowerment and acceptance, her transformation drives the emotional core of Exterritorial, making the thriller not just about survival, but about reclaiming identity and hope. 1. Locked doors and barriers. Throughout the film, locked doors, security gates, and barriers symbolize both literal and psychological confinement. They represent Sarah's entrapment within the consulate's rigid bureaucracy and her own mental prison of PTSD. Each locked door she encounters echoes the walls around her trauma and the obstacles to reclaiming her freedom. 2. Surveillance cameras and the gaze. Constant surveillance cameras symbolize the invasive scrutiny and loss of privacy Sarah endures. They also reflect broader themes of control, mistrust, and institutional power. The ever watchful eyes suggest a world where personal truth is under siege and every move is judged or erased. 3. Mirrors and reflections. Mirrors appear repeatedly, often fragmented or cracked, symbolizing Sarah's fractured identity and inner turmoil. Reflections distort her image, underscoring the blurred line between reality and perception, highlighting her PTSD's impact on her sense of self and trust in what she sees. 4. Josh's presence, innocence, and hope. Josh, Sarah's young son, symbolizes innocence, vulnerability, and the future she fights to protect. His presence contrasts sharply with the cold, harsh environment, reminding viewers of the stakes behind Sarah's struggle and her maternal motivation to reclaim safety and normalcy. 5. Flashing lights and alarms. Alarms and flashing emergency lights represent both external danger and internal panic. They heighten the film's urgency and mirror Sarah's psychological triggers, signaling moments where trauma flares and the thin line between control and chaos breaks down. 6. Shadows and darkness. Shadows are used to symbolize the unknown threats surrounding Sarah, both external enemies and her own hidden fears. Darkness often envelops her in scenes, visually portraying isolation and the obscure truths she battles to uncover. 7. Military insignia and gear. Sarah's worn military gear and insignia symbolize her past identity and the burdens she carries. They are reminders of discipline and strength, but also of trauma and loss, the duality of a soldier who is both protector and survivor. 1. Bureaucratic dehumanization and institutional apathy. The film critiques the cold, impersonal nature of diplomatic and governmental institutions. Sarah's struggle against a rigid visa system and unhelpful consulate staff highlights how bureaucracy often dismisses individual suffering, reducing complex human experiences to paperwork and rules. This reflects real-world frustrations faced by refugees, immigrants, and trauma survivors trapped in bureaucratic limbo. 2. The stigma surrounding mental health and PTSD. Sarah's PTSD is a central narrative element, and the film spotlights society's frequent misunderstanding and stigmatization of mental health issues. The way staff treat Sarah as unstable and unreliable echoes real prejudices that undermine the credibility of trauma survivors, especially veterans. The film advocates for greater empathy and awareness. 3. Surveillance, privacy, and state control. Exterritorial comments on the growing reach of surveillance technologies and their impact on personal freedom. The consulate's pervasive monitoring mirrors modern concerns about privacy erosion and the ways governments and institutions wield surveillance as a tool of control and suppression. 4. Power dynamics and corruption within diplomacy. The hidden illegal operations within the consulate expose the dark underbelly of international diplomacy, where power, espionage, and corruption intersect.
This reflects skepticism about the transparency and ethics of global institutions and questions who truly benefits from these power structures. 5. Motherhood under pressure, gender and caregiving roles. Sarah's fierce protectiveness of her son amid chaos challenges traditional gender roles and highlights the unique pressures faced by women balancing trauma, caregiving, and survival. The film portrays motherhood as a powerful, motivating force while also recognizing the emotional toll it takes. 6. Refugee and immigrant experience. Sarah's attempt to secure a visa and her treatment at the consulate reflect the precariousness faced by refugees and immigrants. The narrative sheds light on the barriers to safety, the vulnerability to exploitation, and the emotional toll of displacement and bureaucratic gatekeeping. 7. The intersection of war and civilians. By focusing on a former soldier trying to protect her family in a civilian setting, the film comments on the long-lasting impact of war beyond the battlefield. It explores how conflict reverberates into everyday life, shaping identities and relationships long after missions end. 1. Subtle enhancements over spectacle. The film employs visual effects sparingly, prioritizing realism and immersion over flashy CGI. VFX are used primarily to enhance practical effects, extend sets, and create seamless environments, such as enhancing the consulate's high-tech security systems or subtly altering backgrounds to reinforce isolation. 2. Surveillance footage. Manipulation. One key use of VFX is in depicting the erased or tampered security camera footage. Grainy, glitchy overlays, pixelation, and digital distortions are created through visual effects to convincingly simulate corrupted or deleted video. These effects help underscore the theme of surveillance and erasure. 3. Flashbacks and memory sequences. Visual effects subtly distinguish Sarah's flashbacks from present-day scenes. Techniques like desaturation, soft focus, and color grading are enhanced with digital overlays such as blurred edges, slow motion elements, or flickering to convey the fragmented and haunting nature of her traumatic memories. 4. Environmental atmosphere and mood. VFX are used to add atmospheric touches such as subtle fog, haze, or shifting shadows, especially in claustrophobic indoor scenes. These effects deepen the film's moody, tense tone and visually reinforce themes of uncertainty and hidden danger. 5. Augmented reality interfaces. When Sarah interacts with consulate technology keypads, biometric scanners, security panels, digital UI elements are layered through VFX to create believable futuristic interfaces. These elements are designed to feel sleek but cold and impersonal, emphasizing the film's themes of control. 6. Injury and combat enhancements. During intense action sequences, visual effects subtly enhance injuries, like blood splatter or bruising, and environmental damage, scratches, dents on surfaces, without relying on overt CGI. This grounded approach maintains authenticity and physicality in fight scenes. 7. Scene transitions and psychological effects. Visual effects assist in transitions between reality and Sarah's psychological experiences, for example, subtle distortions, flickering frames, or momentary overlays that mimic hallucinations. These techniques immerse viewers in her unstable mental state without disrupting narrative flow. 1. Deliberate and measured opening. The film begins with a slower, deliberate pace that establishes Sarah's world, her trauma, and the tense atmosphere of the consulate. This calm before the storm allows viewers to connect emotionally with Sarah and understand the stakes, while subtle unease builds beneath the surface. 2. Gradual build of suspense. Pacing intensifies as Sarah's visa application faces obstacles and her paranoia grows. Scenes lengthen with tight, confined shots, lingering on moments of silence or tension, which heighten anxiety and anticipation. The pacing here mirrors Sarah's psychological unraveling. 3. Sudden bursts of action. Action sequences punctuate the narrative with sharp, fast-paced bursts, chases, fights, and confrontations that contrast starkly with the slower scenes. These moments are visceral and intense, jolting the audience and propelling the plot forward. 4. Strategic pauses for emotional impact. The film uses quiet, reflective moments between high tension scenes to explore Sarah's PTSD and relationships, especially with her son Josh. These pauses prevent fatigue, deepen character development, and maintain emotional resonance. 5. Rising tempo toward climax. As the conspiracy unravels and stakes escalate, the pacing tightens significantly. Scenes cut more quickly, stakes intensify, and tension mounts steadily toward a gripping climax. This crescendo keeps viewers on edge and invested. 6. Controlled resolution. After the climax, the pacing slows again to allow space for resolution and emotional closure, emphasizing Sarah's acceptance in the aftermath of the conflict without rushing to neat conclusions. 1. Praise for lead performance. Critics widely acclaim Nina Hoss's portrayal of Sarah Wolfe, noting her nuanced, deeply emotional performance. Reviewers highlight how she conveys the complexities of trauma, strength, and vulnerability, anchoring the film with authenticity and intensity. 2. Atmospheric direction and tension. The film's direction by James Hawes earns praise for creating a claustrophobic, suspenseful atmosphere. Critics appreciate the slow building tension and the way the film immerses driven thrillers with a psychological edge. This one's definitely worth your time. What did you think about the ending? Did it give you the closure you wanted, or did it leave you wanting more? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. We love hearing your take. Don't forget to hit that like button if you enjoyed this breakdown, and subscribe to Real Talk Cinema for more honest, no fluff reviews and deep dives into the movies that matter. Until next time, keep watching, keep questioning, and keep it real.